For arteries, remember, brachiocephalic is best seen on the heart. But remember we said B, C, S, brachiocephalic, left common carotid, left subclavian, those are coming off of the aortic arch. So the brachiocephalic is probably best seen on the heart model, and then it's left common carotid, left subclavian, because the brachiocephalic branches to become the right common carotid and the right subclavian. And so that's why there's no left brachiocephalic artery. And then, whoa. Like, see this right here? This little branch up here, that's that number 12, that's the vertebral artery. That's what it says. And on right and left, I really care about stuff that's in the lower body cavity and on the heart for right and left. I'm sure you can tell right and left. I can list right up there, but this is obvious in the left side of the body. So the vertebral artery, it goes up the transverse foramen of the cervical vertebrae. Remember we said in AMP1, we said cervical vertebrae because they have the holes on the side. Well, the vertebral artery is going up. It's the blood vessel that's going in that little hole that's in the cervical vertebrae. So it's like right there, that little branch, that number 12. So when this artery is when it's first, it starts off, it's like subclavian, or well, subclavian was that thing coming up, but when it's in the armpit, axillary, and then it becomes brachial. And then on this side, we can see when it's thumb side, what is it? Radial. Then it's ulnar. So the arm for arteries is relatively easy. When it's in the armpit, so subclavian is under your clavicle. So subclavian basically means under the clavicle, subclavian. When something's in your armpit, like right here, axillary, then brachial has to do with your upper arm, and then it's best seen over here with the ulnar and the radial artery. Let's see. Up here, you have the facial and superficial temporal arteries and veins. So the two that are up in the skull are pretty straightforward. About it says facial, superficial, temporal. So facial's towards the face, superficial, temporal, up on the temple, on the side of the skull. You won't be able to see on these models external and internal carotid. And I said that in the announcement. But I said you can see the common carotid very easily. Common carotid is one that's probably seen better on the torso. I really like those on the torso models, which we'll get out. Let's see. So I basically done the upper arm. Then as we go down here, so the aorta, it's thoracic aorta, abdominal aorta, and then when it branches, first it's the common iliac, and then at that road there, that little road that goes in, that's the internal iliac, and then external iliac. And then when it leaves the body cavity, then it becomes femoral. So the femoral is cut off here, but when it leaves the body cavity, it becomes femoral. So femoral artery and femoral vein will be in the same place. Let's see. When you're behind the knee, what do you think it is?
Popliteal.
Popliteal. And then we have anterior tibial artery, posterior tibial artery, and then down here sitting on the foot is dorsalis pedis. So dorsal surface of foot is a pulse point as well. So anterior tibial, like right behind the knee, is popliteal. So popliteal, posterior tibial, anterior tibial. Like I already said, femoral is in the thigh. And so the blood vessels up here, you have the first little group coming off here is the celiac trunk, and it's like right where you have the three blood vessels clustered together is celiac trunk. And then it says that branches immediately for gastric, splenic, and hepatic. So hepatic is going to the liver. And it's like you can see over here this red that goes over to the liver, hepatic. Goes to the stomach is gastric, and I guess that's this branch going up right here, and then like splenic is going over here to the spleen. But if I would more likely do celiac trunk on this little model than the branches coming off. So celiac trunk is listed there. And then when it goes down, it says superior mesenteric. That's this thing right here. So it's listed in order D, E, F, G, it's like order that it's coming off the aorta. So celiac, superior mesenteric is this thing that's cut off right away. And then you have renal going to the kidneys. And then you have inferior mesenteric. So the reason I have them listed is like D, E, F, G, because that's the order they're coming off the aorta. So celiac trunk, superior mesenteric, then you have the renal arteries, and then you have the inferior mesenteric. And then, let's see. Popliteal, fibular we'll worry about on the leg model, fibular artery. So I'm gonna go to veins. So on the veins, you have the small saphenous as this little thing here in the front, and then you have the great saphenous coming up the leg. So the small saphenous actually goes behind the leg, and behind the leg it goes and becomes like popliteal, but you can't see that on this model. You can see the popliteal on the leg model. But the saphenous, so big ones you worry about being asked, saphenous, small saphenous, great saphenous. And then up here, we don't have veins in the arm model. So I have to, I'm gonna do veins from the arm, so I have to use this model for veins in the arm. So I always remember it as CB, Council Bluffs. So what's the C? Cephalic, and the B? Cephalic, basilic. So CB, cephalic, basilic. And then if I just stick it in this thing going across median cubital vein. So those are the three you gotta really worry about in the arm. And just cephalic and basilic, they're going way up. Like the brachial is cut off on this model and you can't see them. So on your sheet, when it says, it actually splits into two brachial veins, merges with basilic to form axillary. You can't really see that on here. Like I guess there's a place where maybe it's cut off, but I think it's too confusing to ask. So the ones you really gotta worry about are cephalic, basilic, and then median cubital. And I just think brachial is too confusing on here. Like there's maybe one of these branches before it starts to split to the different brachial veins, but I just think it'd be weird. And so then it's like axillary and then subclavian. So one thing on here is where the subclavian merges with the internal jugular. So internal jugular is the one that you can see going up into your neck. Those merge, and right after it merges, there's this part together, and that's the right brachiocephalic. So on both sides, the brachiocephalic begins after the merge of the internal jugular and the subclavian. So the left brachiocephalic is much bigger, because there's the internal jugular, that's the left internal jugular and the left subclavian, where they merge brachiocephalic. So you have a left and right brachiocephalic vein, but you don't have a right and left brachiocephalic artery. You just have one brachiocephalic artery. And so it's just that it's a small one here for right brachiocephalic, and then it's a big one here for left brachiocephalic. So you have to say left and right on stuff that's like in body cavity. When it's on arms and legs, I don't care about you saying left and right. But when it's on the heart or if it's in the body cavity, you should be saying left and right. Let's see, and like I said, facial and superficial temporal, they're basically the same. You know, you can't see the radial and the ulnar. I already told you I don't think brachial is really fair on this model, so I'll never do it. It's just the stuff that's in bold. So that the veins of the internal iliac, you know, common, external, they're the same as same place as the artery. So it's just myascin vein or myascin artery, they're running right next to it. So those are pretty easy. Let's see. It says vertebral vein not seen on flat model, but I say where it is, but it's like right next to the vertebral artery, so I could do the vertebral artery, but up there it says, well, you can't see it on the flat model, so I couldn't do the vertebral vein, number 12. Let's see. Then it says external jugular. You can't really see. I made this up at home when I made these up. you can't really see the external jugular good on this model. You can see internal jugular, the main ones you see in the neck. And so that's what you worry about for the most part. You know there's likely going to be a vein on the arm and leg off of this model. And then who knows what else I ask, but you know that stuff's going. Then you think, well, what else is on this model you can't see on other models? Like, we don't really have anything else that shows the head worth of crap, except on this model. So now I need a torso model.